code and how it ties into what I like to call the fictional reserve banking system. And do you feel that taking steps to learn about and actually declare your common law sovereignty would be one of the prudent first steps into bringing a resource-based economy into fruition?
Common law sovereignty, I've met a few people that seem to have had success with that. It's very few and far between, though.
Jordan Maxwell
What's that?
Jordan Maxwell speaks about it.
He is, but you notice that he doesn't actually have that status.
Yeah, I know.
So, there's a huge theoretical thing, and I have met people that have successfully done it for a little while. You have to understand the legal system can change anything it wants to. So if you can find that loophole, that's great, but it isn't a solution. I think people that want to pursue it should do it just as one more front to challenge. It isn't something that I feel is a resolution, as a tactic to resolution that I would employ or advocate in the Zeitgeist movement. I don't really buy it in the full extent. I don't think it has longevity. So that's my opinion on it. Thank you. Sure, thank you.
Next question, please.
I wanted to congratulate you and everybody in the room for being among the few intellectuals on the planet who can really make a change. We are the answer, so let's make this happen. But I wanted to ask you specifically, it seems to me that the root of most every cause of difficulty on the planet, first of all, is human created, and next of all, is based on greed. And I'm curious to know if there's anybody who's done any kind of studies or currently doing any research into the reversal of greed in the current hierarchy of power with respect to how it's developed in utero or environment or whatever the cause of it is, but ultimately to reverse the greed that seems to be systemic from top down.
The only way you can reverse the greed is to reverse the system, because the system magnifies it, it supports it, it promotes it. Greed is like the religious. It's like the divinity of this system. It's the divine right to be greedy. And the only way you can resolve that in a basic human behavioral sense and the conditioning orientation is to establish a system that doesn't reward it.
And the last touch, why are you in LA tonight, given the whole world is experiencing your magic over the past 24 hours?
Why am I in LA?
I mean, I'm just curious to know why.
Well, this is the big release.
Yes,
of course.
Absolutely.
And I'll be in New York actually tomorrow.
Yes, for 3 days, I believe.
Yes, how do you know that? Where's my bodyguard? Thank you.
I think it's also the way it started with Zeitgeist, because you flew in from New York to Los Angeles for the first one. So I think it's just keeping that.
And the response in LA has always been larger than anywhere else. Well, maybe there's some other countries, but as far as the U.S., the people have always been more supportive, in mass. At least as my experience. But, I think we've sold out every show we've ever done together, so it's great to see that support. Okay.
Peter, thank you for your films, first of all.
Sure.
To better frame my question, I'll introduce myself. My name is Dutch Merrick. I've spent my career working in entertainment, media, and advertising, and came to the realization that whole process is the process of selling people on individuality, consumption, and a blind faith in this economic system.
Yes.
Just blind, as religious as anything else. So,
Absolutely.
And so for my penance, or trying to pay that off, I volunteered with Dennis Kucinich' presidential campaign and Ralph Nader as a filmmaker to use those skills as you have to try to move the other messages forward and counter that. Additionally, I volunteered KPFK 90.7 FM radio, which is the only broadly based media outlet that would dare play anything like this, excerpts, or have any kind of dialogue about that. I encourage everybody to support that type of media. 90.7 FM, I started there 8 years ago as a phone banking volunteer, and now I've worked my way up. I was recently elected to the chairman of the local station board. So by consistently putting an effort from the ground up, we can make a difference. I just want to remind people they don't have to be a filmmaker. They can donate to broader causes. My question is, our framing is that individuality trumps all. Because I'm an American, I'm number one, I deserve it, I need a Chevy or a certain bottle of wine, or I'll never get laid again. When we see the market crashes in Europe, there's millions of people taking to the streets. When the Iraq War was about to gear up, millions of people took to the streets. And when Americans are asked about that, they see it as ridiculous that French farmers would park their tractors on highways and protest, and people would protest against changing the retirement age. How do we break the spell on Americans that individuality trumps collectivism, and that when we all benefit, we all benefit?
Well, I think the only way, frankly, it's going to happen is by the fact that the standard of living in America, that has essentially been the result of the exploitation of most of the East, such as from the early days of Britain and the East India Company to what we call globalization is really colonialization. America has hijacked most of the world and taken advantage of just about every other country out there. And other countries have been absolutely subservient, such as China. China has continued to exploit all of their people in favor of exporting their crap to us at an outrageously cheap rate. It goes on and on. Sweatshop slavery. John Perkins from Zeitgeist details the colonialistic attribute of America. That's not going to go on for that much longer. It can't. Which is why these wars are developing so quickly and why there's so much tension now with, of course, energy, the Iraq War, and oil. Regardless of how much they try to take over and to maneuver in order to try and keep... well, what did George Bush say? That America's lifestyle was uncompromisable. He said something really belligerent a while back, like this. And the fact
one of
is,
his new words, right? Uncompromisable.
And basically, there's no way the standard of living in America is going to maintain what it has. And if you want to see us angry little children that are going to get mad and have temper tantrums when they can't, get in their huge Hummer and they have to spend, $4 a gallon on gas, and they actually have to think conservatively, then you're going to see America have a real temper tantrum, and that's going to lead to a change in values one way or another. And that's inevitable, by the way. So you just wait and watch the fireworks for the next decade. It's going to be really interesting.
Well, this will be one of the triggers that'll help educate people.
I hope so.
Quick shout out to Jason Lord for all of his efforts in California, and I'd like to say he's a good friend of mine.
Absolutely, Jason.
Next question, please.
Yeah, hi Dutch, and thanks for the plug for KPFK. I'm also on the board here. I'd also like to thank the audience for being so darn young. I don't see too many gray hairs here. I go to a lot of political things, and I see a lot of people my age, in the 50s and 60s, and I'm happy to see young people here in what you might think of as a revolutionary movement. I think you're the only people that have the energy to fulfill it. So it's just good to see you here, and I thank you for that. I have a two-part question, but a quick answer to Dutch's question. I think the answer is abundance. If you get the society giving abundance to the people, then they can afford to be generous and they stop being greedy. They can afford to do that. So,
but they also have to understand that property is a detrimental idea. And owning a car is a horrible concept. That you don't use it that often. You need to create a system of sharing that's very efficient so people have access. So that's one concept that I just want to throw in there. That's, you can't provide just a raw abundance and have everyone have a one of everything. That's a completely idiotic, I'm not saying that's what you're saying, by the way, but that's the way a lot of people think. And in fact, I get that question a lot. They say, well, what if I want a ski boat? And I'm like, well, you can have access to these things. Like, how many times a day do you use your ski boat?
I completely agree. In fact, I had the idea once that if we had the money to fund sustainable energy such that it was essentially electricity be free in the city of downtown LA, then you can get these little golf carts which cost about $1,000, and you can just make them available as just like shopping carts, except they'd have to stay within the little electric grid area, and so they just would be run around downtown, pollution free, and you just borrow them like a shopping cart and use them, and when you're done, you park them. And
many sustainable ideas. It's almost endless how much more efficient things could be if we actually cared to make them so. But what was your question?
My question is this: I'm a member of the public banking movement, and I'm going to join your movement. Okay. And my question is, do you think, as I do, that the public banking movement, probably instantiated as a state bank in California, a state bank owned by the people, the citizens of California, for the benefit of the people of California, to create jobs and infrastructure such as sustainable energy systems for the state of California,